Coming up on 5 Minute News. Putin confident he can grind down Ukraine, says CIA director. Migrant boat from Turkey breaks up, killing nearly 60. And red states leading solar and wind production. It's Monday, February 27. I'm Anthony Davis. As the Ukraine war enters its second year, the CIA director William Burns said that Russian President Vladimir Putin is being too confident in his military's ability to grind Ukraine into submission. In a television interview, Burns said the head of Russia's intelligence services had displayed in their November meeting a sense of cockiness and hubris that reflected Putin's own beliefs that he can make time work for him, that he believes he can grind down the Ukrainians, that he can wear down our European allies, that political fatigue will eventually set in. That conversation, in which Burns warned of the consequences if Russia were to deploy a nuclear weapon in Ukraine, was pretty dispiriting, Burns said. He said he judged Putin as quite determined to continue prosecuting the war, despite the casualties, tactical shortcomings, and economic and reputational damage to Russia. Burns also said that Putin was underestimating US resolve to support Ukraine, saying that it had been his experience that the Russian leader's view is that Americans have attention deficit disorder and that we'll move on to some other issue eventually. The comments came at a critical juncture for the war, as the Biden administration is confident that the Chinese leadership is considering whether to provide lethal military equipment to Russia. Burns said that China's leader, Xi Jinping, has closely watched how the war has evolved, and I think in many ways he's been unsettled and sobered by what he's seen. The CIA director spoke of where Putin's hubris has now got Russia, and said that in authoritarian systems, where nobody challenges a leader, you can make some huge blunders. A wooden boat crowded with migrants smashed into rocky reefs and broke apart before dawn yesterday off the Italian coast, authorities said. Rescuers recovered almost 60 bodies, and dozens more people were missing in the rough waters. Officials feared the death toll could top 100, since some survivors indicated the boat had as many as 200 passengers when it set out from Turkey, United Nations refugee and migration agencies said. At least 80 people were found alive, including some who reached the shore after the shipwreck just off Calabria's coastline along the Ionian Sea, the Italian Coast Guard said. One of the agency's motorboats rescued 2 men suffering from hypothermia and recovered the body of a boy. As sundown approached, firefighters said 59 bodies had been found. One man was taken into custody for questioning after fellow survivors indicated that he was the trafficker. The boat collided with the reefs in wind-whipped seas. 3 big chunks of the vessel ended up on the beach, where splintered pieces of bright blue wood littered the sand like matchsticks. The humanitarian group Doctors Without Borders said it was offering psychological assistance to survivors, who included a 16-year-old boy from Afghanistan whose sister made it to the beach but then died. The group said the teen hadn't found the courage to tell his parents. Another survivor was a 12-year-old boy from Afghanistan who lost his entire family, including 4 siblings. Italian state TV quoted survivors as saying the boat set out 5 days ago from Turkey. Pope Francis told the faithful in St. Peter's Square that he was praying for the dead, the missing and the survivors, as well as for rescuers and for those who give welcome to the migrants. A new report by Climate Central shows how US capacity to generate renewable energy shot up last year, and surprisingly, Republican states led the nation in solar and wind power production. National wind and solar capacity grew 16% compared to 2021. All told, renewables generated enough electricity to power 64 million American households. The report comes as the Biden administration starts to make billions of dollars available for renewable energy projects. The administration has committed to decarbonizing the grid completely by 2030 and getting the US to net zero emissions by mid-century. Climate action has often been stymied at the local and federal levels by Republican leaders, but the new report shows Iowa and Oklahoma, all of which have Republican governors and majority Republican state legislatures, led the nation in wind power production, while California and Florida were the largest producers of solar power. Texas is a leader in both solar and wind power. There are several reasons why wind energy has grown by leaps in Texas. The state has been proactive in building out transmission lines to bring wind power to businesses and homes, which means future wind farms can easily connect to this grid. These investments allow the state to take advantage of its natural renewable resources. Laws deregulating the energy market in Texas have also been conducive to leasing land for wind turbines. Only 2% of the land in Texas is regulated by the federal government. Elsewhere, state and federal incentives were a major driver for the year-over-year growth in renewable energy generation. The report shows that solar generation is understandably highest in the summer, while wind energy peaks in spring and fall. You can subscribe to 5-Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5-Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5-Minute News is an Evergreen podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.